controversial subjects with the facts can be tense, but we are ASAP Science here to make things make sense.
Today we are talking about Elon Musk. And yes, this is a bit of a follow-up. We have done in one of our earlier podcasts, another podcast episode about Elon Musk, but now we are going to talk about how mostly Mitch has changed his tune on him based on some things that happened this weekend. And then we're going to get into some studies about electrical cars.
All right, let's do it. Hi, how's it going? Oh, this is side note. I'm Mitch.
And I am Greg.
Why can't we never get that? I feel like that's the most basic thing that every podcast figures out.
What, like starting? Like everyone should know how to start.
Like a log line to say their names. I don't know. I guess we don't have to do that. But every time I get so distracted by like doing these controls now that I never am like understanding what's happening. What's up?
Speaking of Grimes, the control that we have now is what Grimes tours with.
She designed it.
And again, speaking of Grimes is currently had a baby today with Elon Musk. Her name's Claire Boucher, and she is a musician who I, Greg, love, and I am having a hard time grappling with the fact that she is having a baby with someone who I consider to be the world's evil villain. Okay.
All right. Well, how else is your week going? We're going to get into that perspective. What else is new with you?
Oh, God, not enough, because we are stuck in core, as everyone else is. It was a warm day this weekend here in Toronto, and it was a little bit unnerving to see so many people out and about. We stayed home, and that's, I think, that's the new thing that I'm trying to figure out is how we're going to move forward into like the nicer weather as spring hits here in Toronto. But I mean, outside of a few good things that have happened this week, it's been, I don't know, I'm struggling, I guess.
Well, we just got some fun, good news of an event we're taking part in. You want to talk about that?
Yeah.
We're not doing, but we're part of an event that's sort of a YouTube live stream commencement speech because so many people will be graduating, but at home.
Which is so cool. Like when they reached out, I was like, that is so awesome. You know, like as teachers and like as wanting to be a teacher, like it was such a cool opportunity to be like, oh, we get to be a part of people graduating this year. Like we said yes immediately because it's just a cool idea, but then
though now we found out that Barack Obama and Michelle Obama are basically the top names, but then there's also BTS, Lady Gaga, who else is
Alicia Keys.
But our name was weirdly put like above a lot of other people, and also the only name not spelled in all caps. Like they actually put the sort of we do like a capital A and a capital Science. For some reason, the only name that was spelled without all caps, like I was like, what's going on? But it's really exciting. And I think that's June 6th.
The only, like, I mean, I obviously care about all different types of celebrity. It's in my genes. I'm gay. But Barack and Michelle Obama is just crazy. I absolutely love both of them, like, deeply. I honestly think like they could come on my computer screen right now and I could start crying. Like I just can't
Do you mean like to say hello to you, or you just mean a video of them?
Oh no, any video, any photo. Honestly,
like come on your computer screen, like to be like, hi Greg, it's
no. I literally mean like a clip. Whenever I see clips of Barack Obama like addressing the nation as a president, like as he used to do, I get so emotional because I'm just like, oh my God. Like, I mean, I was a stan for the 8 years. And like,
you were a stan.
I really loved life. I really loved life then.
Changing topics, something else I've been playing a lot of is Animal Crossing. And I don't know why I just wanted to talk about it, but I feel finally proud and at the point where my little town is coming together really nicely. And you know what? I had a moment where I realized you can learn a lot from video games because I actually know the names of flowers now. I don't know much about gardening, but now when I see flowers, I'm like, that's a hyacinth. That's a tulip. That's like, because I don't know why I thought that was so interesting, but I was just...
No, that's actually really cool.
Realizing how a video game in the context of something can actually teach you. Not that it's necessarily trying to, but I can recognize certain flowers because you like...
Is it educational? I don't know anything about Animal Crossing, but
no, it's just like a capitalist pursuit to
Wait,
build.
But you just said hyacinths and tulips.
Yeah, but you're basically trying to make your island bigger and better and you're appeasing this capitalist man, Tom Nook,
aka Elon Musk.
yeah, who just wants to make things bigger and better. Like it starts out by being like, oh, it's an escape to a cute little island, but then you're encouraged to make it bigger and invite more people and build houses and build beautiful gardens and all those kind of things. And you're basically just like chasing money the whole time.
No, every time I picture you, like every morning Mitch has a little coffee and I hear the noises, I'm like, oh wow, he's really doing something. And it's like he's learning about flowers.
I'm waking up every day because I'm like, if I don't wake up and do it today, I won't get my $30,000 from a tree and $20,000 from a rock. And you have to do it every single day if I want to like, rack up my bills and buy a new couch.
You actually are like, I mean, and I'm not saying this is necessarily a bad thing, but like the tinkle tinkle, the noises that I hear from other rooms, I'm like, you are addicted to
Oh,
it.
for sure. Yeah. I'm absolutely addicted to it. I play it every day.
You keep being like, I don't know why, I just haven't read any books this year. And I'm like, well, I'm like in bed reading a book and I just hear like ding 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 ding.
Yeah, well, you know what? Video games are great and it's a great escape.
I think do whatever you can to survive these times. I say that as loud as I can into the mic because I eat edibles every day.
Yeah, this is our comparison. Greg eats edibles and I play Animal Crossing, and we all have our things, okay?
That was
what did we learn this week?
okay. That was musically like brilliant. It was like, oh, what did we learn this week? LOL, me saying musically brilliant. No, who is musically brilliant? Grimes. I'm so
We're gonna get there, Greg.
About
We're
our conversation.
Get to that conversation. So this week I wanted to address and learned about murder hornets. Have you heard about them yet?
Oh my God. I haven't had the intellectual capacity to get into this. I'm still on COVID-19. I'm still actually what did we learn speaks about COVID-19. So I'm like, I'm so sorry, everyone. We are smiling behind these microphones, but we are going to come at you with the bleakness
of
life.
Well, it's okay. It's not as bleak as people are making it seem. As you know, for the clicks, the media loves and the websites love to get those clicks. So I was reading an article today about that name, murder hornets, which is
like that.
Sensationalist.
Wait, are you serious? They're not scientifically called that? They just
No, that's their colloquial name that everyone's calling them. And the scientist was basically like, if you're a bee, maybe like like the bees are getting murdered. That is true. So
that's still bad.
That is a bad thing. But humans don't need to be worried about being murdered. Although, okay, I'm going to give you some facts because about 30 to 50 people die from these bees in Japan alone every year.
What?
Yeah, from getting stung by them. Not like once, I think, but you can have like cardiac arrest or like there was a heart attack. Isn't that the same thing?
Oh my God. Okay. So it's not like swarms of bees covering them and like murdering them with their stingers.
No,
it's like
just
repercussion of the shock or
the Asian giant hornets, basically, and they have now been seen. So for context, they've been seen in America in the fall of last year and in Canada.
Let me guess,
BC.
Florida.
No, it's on the West Coast, and it's actually like in BC. They've seen them a couple times.
Wait, BC's in Canada, babe?
I know. I said the U.S. and Canada. I'm saying the West Coast, Greg, includes both America and Canada. Thank you.
I was like, if you got to be saying D.C. If you're going to be saying America, that's Washington, D.C.
Oh, yeah, it's Washington is where they saw them.
Oh, but Washington
both
State.
D.C. and B.C.
No, what? Okay,
I don't know the difference.
No.
Oh, I'm Canadian.
Wow. I know whenever I make mistakes about geography in America, I'm like, well, I'm Canadian. I actually don't even want to know about your country. Washington, D.C. No, that's White House. Washington State is like Seattle, which makes sense because
that's what I meant. Yeah,
where
underneath BC.
Yeah. You saved yourself.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
So those were seen in the fall. And so now I think they're being seen again, and they're predicting because it's spring, we may have a season where we see more than we ever would, and that they might have not migrated over here. The theory is that they might have been brought in on a ship or something.
Okay, I was like, I don't think they flew across the Pacific.
Well, no one really knows.
Oh, wow.
And in one article, it was like, we don't know if they accidentally went in the cargo or intentionally. And I was like, what do you mean intentionally?
Oh my God, people are so into tearing. Like, we need to come together, world. We need to stop tearing each other apart.
Wait, what?
I feel like they were probably being like, well, who knows? Maybe someone brought it here.
No, that's not what they meant. I thought it was funny because I was like, oh, did the bees intentionally got on a boat to come to BC?
No, Mitch, don't you think that they were trying to say like someone intentionally?
No, I think they meant did the bees go in the cargo.
Wait, are you?
No,
I don't think they were trying to have a philosophical question about whether or not these bees have a conscience to like.
I thought they meant like, did they accidentally get stuck in the cargo, or was there some fruit in it that they wanted to eat?
No, I mean I don't know because you read the
Oh,
article.
now
but
I'm seeing you. Mean like, did someone put them on?
Yes, like to like screw over the Americas. I think that's
No,
more.
that's not it. No, that may be what the article was saying.
Oh yeah.
So
my
no, okay. But what I was going to say later, but I'll just
Yeah.
say now, is that the researchers or scientists who were talking about this were saying this isn't some horror film that's about to start. Yes, we might see their
Imagine that-
prevalence here, but we're not. No one brought them here to suddenly take over North America.
We do not have the capacity to be going through the current pandemic horror film. And honestly, if there was a like what I pictured when people started talking about murder hornets, I pictured like arachnophobia, just them like swarming everyone. I would
they're
just be like,
huge.
it's too much.
They're about 2 inches long, I think it said. So they are the biggest hornets in the world.
Wow.
And they have huge stingers that have toxins in them. Their
And
faces are huge and orange. That's how you can tell. Like they were like, if you see a giant Asian hornet, you will know because of how big it is.
And the issue is that they are killing bees.
Yeah, so they kill
God.
honeybees.
That's
and
also
they
so
basically
bad.
literally decapitate them. And then they take over their nest and kill all the bees and then keep the young to feed to their young. I think,
My God,
and
murder hornets.
take over the hive of bees.
Okay, relax, murder
I
hornets. That's
know.
horrifying.
They literally like use their mandibles to chop off their heads.
Why? Sometimes I'm like nature. Oh, I'm like picturing trees and beautiful waterfalls. And then other times it's like, oh, well, actually, there's just like this predatory wasp that will like literally murder and like salvage and like suck dry.
But
their
ultimately, you don't need to be afraid. They said if you see it, don't try and kill it. Just like report it was their request. But it's more like if you came across a nest, you would
be like a Karen?
Don't disturb them. Yeah,
young.
be a
Like,
Karen.
literally like, excuse me,
Get on the frickin'
there's a
line.
big ass hornet.
Well, it was like, don't try and kill it. Like, just let it be. They're not gonna want to attack you. So
Yeah.
just like most bees, if you kind of like don't bother them, then you'll be fine. I shouldn't say most bees. I think lots of bees are perfectly tame and fine. But you know what I mean? When a bee's near you, if you swat it, you might actually aggravate it. Versus if you just kind of like gently push it along if it's too close to you, or just ignore it
Oh my
completely.
God, I love SWAT versus the gentle.
Which
push
I've
along.
never been able to do. I'm always like,
Okay, wow.
what did you learn this week?
So my main takeaway though is that they're not murdering us. Okay, good to know.
Well, but they might kill some people. So.
And in long term, we do need the bees. And there's also a virus affecting bees. I was learning a lot about today, which is like, I mean, I don't need to go into the virus, but the bees. But it is really interesting. They were doing this like really cool study on them, and they found that they like don't feed in the same way when they have the virus. And it's like so interesting, speaking of like bee consciousness, like they can't tell whether they're like either not hungry or they're actually trying to not spread it to the rest of the colony. Like they don't know why they all of a sudden feed less, but it's kind of
like an evolutionary strategy that they have the instinct to stay away, or if they're just not hungry.
They're literally like physically self-isolating.
Well, don't bats do that as well? They had done some studies about social distancing and isolating where they realized sick bats actually self-isolate.
That's sick.
At least maybe in certain species. It might have been vampire bats. Now I'm just saying facts that I don't have the proof for, but I heard
Wait.
it.
Oh my God. Literal vampires. Okay. Okay. Oh yeah. I still have to do what we learned this week. I'm like, speaking of vampires, Elon Musk. Okay. I need to.
And Grimes. I feel like if that one of them's a vampire, it's probably Grimes.
Okay, you zip your lip. You're talking to a Grimes fan here. Okay. So what did we learn this week? Is just some updates. So I was reading this really interesting article about like in COVID-19 times, how like obviously we have to worry a lot. And on our channel in the coming 2 weeks, you're going to see like a lot of videos about misinformation and how we have to try and tackle that. But like within the medical community, things spread really fast, but like for good reason. And the analogy they use, because like people need new information and they need to know, like people want to know like pre-studies and like people want to know everything that's sort of like up to date, and it happens really fast. About COVID-19. Like if you're a doctor, you actually are like, okay, what's happening in Barcelona? What's happening in Italy?
Right.
Like even like rumors and rumblings, like there's talk about people literally like texting each other, but it's like doctor to doctor.
Okay.
Whereas like, you know, we probably shouldn't get into like the world of like the people who aren't doctors making random shit up.
Okay, but information is traveling very fast because
Yes.
everyone wants to figure out answers,
And it's
or even
essential.
anecdotes. Yeah.
Yes. And so like they were like, one analogy they used, which I thought was helpful, is that like right now during a pandemic, it's almost like weather reports during a storm. Like you're getting updates like all the time. They're unique to medicine and dealing with the pandemic, but like they can change. Like when a storm is happening, you're gonna get weather, but like it's not necessarily always like they don't know for certain.
Right.
Yeah.
For certain.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you these sort of 3 new like pre-studies, and they have some pretty strong research about symptoms of COVID-19, one of which they've really started to see enough of to talk about in Nature magazine, Science magazine I've been reading, which is the loss of taste and smell.
Oh, I have heard that. Okay.
Yeah. So that is something that I think at the beginning, that you could hear something like that, especially with misinformation all over the place, and think like, okay, like what?
Yeah. Okay.
But they're really finding that is a symptom in quite a few people. Again, they don't know why. Some people would have it, some people wouldn't, but still test positive. But it is enough that they're like, we need to report about this.
Okay.
Also, sudden strokes due to blood clots in adults between the ages of 30 to 50. So this, yeah. So this is the new one that I like.
I'm also shocked when a 30-year-old's called an adult because I do not feel like an adult.
Oh my God, Mitch, we are so. Have you ever tried to try?
No, I
when
feel
it takes
like a
longer than
mature
it takes us a
20
while to make a TikTok. You know what I mean? Like that thing that comes naturally to people.
I plan it for a week.
Actually, every time I post a TikTok, I'm like, this is so sad. We're so old.
Wait, someone had a good analogy, not to go on a tangent here, but of when, yeah, I mean, this is obvious, but when our parents and grandparents started joining Facebook and we were just like, ugh, they're so old, they don't get it. And now we are those people.
Yeah, my friend Shannon said her little sister was like, yeah, TikTok's great, but the only thing that sucks is like adults. Like literally like any adult on it. And then I like cut to people being like, hey, classic, bougie, Ripchat. It's so bad. Okay, wow. Tonal shift, but back to sudden strokes. So it is actually something they're really noticing. Again, it's like from an what?
I just was laughing at the sudden tonal shift.
Well, I mean, whatever. It's like information, the way that you get it, it's important. You know what? People are probably sick of hearing this depressing stuff. So I'm just going to say it with a smile on my face.
Yeah.
But it's like from epidemiological studies, they're realizing that this time last year, for example, way less people were coming into hospitals between the ages of 30 to 50 with strokes. That they're realizing like, okay,
there must be some correlated
factor. And like,
factor.
obviously these people aren't actually asymptomatic of COVID-19. They test positive, and a lot of them likely have it, but they're not like, sick with it and then having a stroke. These are people coming in with strokes, and then people are going, oh my God, what?
Like, why are these numbers so much higher than normal?
Again, something to be thinking about when you're deciding to take a nice leisurely walk with your friends in the park for some reason in the next, like, you know what I mean? These are important. It's still important we understand all these things, that it's still very serious. And the last one is red, purple, and brown discoloration in the toes, particularly in kids.
I was gonna ask if that was one, because I saw someone talk about that and I saw an image and then I just didn't know if it was real or not.
Exactly. That's why I'm like was just using this opportunity to just let people know that this is information. Again, this is not like peer reviewed scientific journals with tons and tons of information, because actually that's extremely hard to come by right now. But in a lot of pre-research and a lot of articles I've been reading in Nature and Science, they're like putting them in there saying, this is what we're seeing throughout, whether it's China, Italy, New York. Now that we're like reflecting on this, looking back on last March and this March and looking at strokes in these age groups, it's worth noting because it's better to be safe and just know that this isn't misinformation.
If your toes are looking a different color, like maybe take that as a sign. Or
and
just like it's good to know that. I mean, it makes it hard though, because it's that thing where every time I have a sniffle, every time I clear my throat, I start going, oh my God, this is a possible symptom.
But I didn't say any, like, known those for a long time. These are actually quite distinct.
Those are pretty distinct. Yeah.
Like
from other diseases.
Losing your sense of smell right now.
Would be
a very important thing for you to understand the connection to. Anyways,
sure.
Those are the 3 of them, and I'll update any more that come. But Nature magazines was talking about these, and so was Science, and I thought, okay, like, might as well get as many people as possible to at least understand this.
Study time.
Study time. Study time.
So today,
So to give people reminder context, our podcast structure used to be a bit different, but we have an episode on Elon Musk where we used to take a topic and each take a different side because Greg was very quick to jump down my throat and be like, you were pro Elon Musk before. And I just want to point out that I was assigned the role of pro Elon Musk.
Okay.
Which
no,
at the
we
time,
have had this argument for, I would say, the last 5 years. But like
For a long
Elon
time.
Musk has, and I have a particular issue with anyone who's a billionaire. Period. As the kids are saying. Period. Imagine a kid hearing that, he'd be like, I'm turning off.
yeah,
this podcast.
that's us on TikTok where I'm like, and that's on being old.
And that's on that period. So there has been a time where I think you were a lot more excited about Elon Musk, and I actually want you to go in right now about the turning point.
Coming from me.
No,
Okay.
no. Like me coming upstairs, I've actually chosen to quite a while ago get rid of Elon Musk off of my Twitter. Like I'm just like, no, I've had it with this person. I don't even want to bring this up. We even would fight about it a lot, but back when I would engage with why I really had issues with him. So I don't really know that much, and I'd like you to explain to me and to the audience sort of like what happened this weekend and what made you change your mind on him.
Sure. Well, okay, to give context of this podcast, how we want to flow, because we have some studies that are going to link to electric cars and science of that. So we're going to intersperse some thoughts about Elon Musk and those kind of things. Not that I ever knew that much about him. When we did our last podcast, which I think was 2 years ago now, right?
Yeah, it was 2
Long
years
time.
ago. Yeah.
Did not think we were doing our
It's
podcast
when
for 2
he
years.
first started dating Grimes, who I j'adore. That's French
Right.
for love.
I think my instinct at first, not instinct, but my belief was I think that the effort to bring electric vehicles to the market is a noble effort. And I feel like if there is these like cultural wars against the oil industry and against big corporations who kind of own everything and aren't pushing harder towards sustainable, then I'd rather have a billionaire or rich people that are promoting the values that I want to see the world go towards. And at the time, it felt like making it cool. Like these electric cars weren't for nerds. They were actually electric cars that encourage people to want to, like, for it to be cool, that it was like actually
God.
Okay, eye roll, I know, but okay. I think at the time I just thought what he was doing was at least interesting and that it was the pursuit of science in some ways and sending rockets to space and stuff. So it was not just him. I think the company was interesting to me, Tesla Motors, which I think is just called Tesla now. And then as a result, I saw him as the figurehead for the company and just thought, okay, that's kind of interesting. But I did always think, okay, there is a little bit of sort of megalomania in him, this kind of, which I think happens to almost every billionaire. If they're not already that way, I think once you have that much money, you have this perspective of life that is very, very skewed and self-indulgent, and the belief that you are some gift to the humankind. And I think over the past week, it's become more and more clear that his motivations are not so much around actually changing the world if he can't be the one to do it, and he's willing to sacrifice people's lives to get his end goal.
So what exactly happened? Like, because I feel like you're more tapped into like the culture of Reddit, and you said people kind of like turned on him. It was because of the COVID-19 stuff. If you want to explain that to people, like what did he do that made people start to shift their tone on him?
So definitely there's been a shift over the last few years, even, I think, because he's such a prominent figure and he's quite controversial, even in terms of like business and economics. Like he's tweeted things in the past that have got him in trouble based on, I think he's done some things from Twitter that have impacted the shares of Tesla. I don't really understand.
Okay, someone told me that, first red flag, one on the Joe Rogan podcast. We'll talk about that later.
But so did Bernie Sanders, and I love him.
I know,
so
that was really important. But he apparently smoked a cigar that was laced with weed on the Joe Rogan podcast, and then it like made the shares of Tesla fall because it meant that he was like unhinged, even though apparently he was like, if you watch the whole podcast, which was probably 4.5 hours long, because that's how long they usually are, I actually said I don't smoke weed. But that was just one example of something I did read where the shares fell because he was like smoking weed with Joe Rogan on a podcast.
His behavior has impacted the company in a way where, I mean, a lot of shareholders have asked that he step down because
But is that an example? That doesn't seem that bad to me.
No, so he's tweeted things that have had bigger impacts and also gotten like slaps on the wrist for manipulating the market based on that way. But what has happened, and I think he's just like tries to play the meme game and wants to be this cool guy. And I think some people see through it as just a charade to kind of relate to people in a certain way and to be kind of edgy as a CEO, which is rare. Like a lot of CEOs are just business people. They're not on Twitter. They don't have this public access. So I think that's what made him an interesting figure.
Have you seen him dance? It's like, bud, you're not cool, bud. You're not cool.
Right.
If you go find
and he also his father was a rich person.
Emerald.
Yeah.
His father owned an emerald mine in Zambia. That is how he grew up so wealthy. I'm like, I don't know how big this red flag can be. Before
And it
rips
reminds
in
me
half.
of Trump, where he likes to talk about how he didn't really have that big of an advantage, or like I think he kind of tries to play it down like he still had to earn his way and these kind of things. But anyway, recently,
Imagine your dad owned an emerald mine and you had the audacity to be like, well, I didn't grow up that well. I had to earn my own way. It's like, do you know how many people in this world don't have parents who own emerald
Anything.
mines? It's like, even the word emerald, it's like, that's insane.
it's like, wait, people buy emeralds? Like what? Wait,
Like, it's like in
I
Wicked.
don't know if I've ever seen an emerald in my life. Also, love that you chose Wicked before Wizard of Oz. That shows how gay you are.
Yeah, I know. They're both pretty gay, but yeah.
I mean, they're the same, but Wicked's
yeah.
a deeper cut gay, I think. It's a more modern gay. Recently, Elon Musk was very opinionated about coronavirus. Over, say, the last month and a half, he has been. But in the last week, he went crazy.
When we were still in LA, it was like such a precarious time. When was it? And he said, what did he tweet? He was like, the panic about coronavirus is dumb.
Yeah, coronavirus panic is dumb.
I remember that. I do remember seeing that, and I did have to respond and be like, thanks for your nuanced.
Yeah.
Like you are such a loud speakerphone right
Exactly.
now, and that's what you.
And
like,
I said
think the
this to you
share should have
earlier.
followed on that one.
Well, I said this to you earlier where I was saying, okay, you can have an opinion about panic being dumb. And there's been some interesting conversations around, especially in the beginning stages, like, let's not panic, people. We can take it seriously. Dr. Mike has that catchphrase that's, alert, not anxious. And I think that's a really important thing, especially when everyone was really scared at the beginning as it started exploding. And so maybe that's what he meant, but it's definitely not what he said.
That's not what he meant, because he would say
it's
that
not.
differently.
Exactly. But I think that was his sort of defense. Oh, but the panic is dumb. And people who were defending him were saying, he's just saying the panic is dumb. But ultimately, it's like there's a lot of people who are now using that and using the fact that you're a billionaire, rich, successful tech guy to think that you have the right opinion. And as a result, they're not going to buy into this coronavirus stuff. So this is like a month and a half ago. Then in late March, he goes, oh, by the end of April, I bet coronavirus cases, he said something about coronavirus cases being down to 0 by the end of April.
What?
Yeah.
Wait. He said he thought
he was like, by the end of April, coronavirus cases in the States will be down to 0.
oh my God.
So these are all adding up to him, and people started being like, okay, why are you saying
did he
these
say
things?
that?
You're not an expert. I don't know. He thinks he's smart.
But is he saying this? How is it affecting him? Like, why is
Okay,
he
so the presumption in this, I don't want to sound too conspiratorial. So I don't know a lot about this, and I don't know a lot about the inner workings of Tesla, but there are some thoughts. Obviously, the pandemic and the closures and quarantines have a big impact on a lot of companies, right? And so probably Tesla is maybe behind the scenes struggling. I think as a company, it has never been profitable. So this kind of they have momentum in culture.
Oh my, you think it's literally because he's actually like wants things
I
to
don't
go
know the
back?
behind the scenes. There was someone I read somewhere that just like comments on Reddit, people saying he has some stake, and if they can remain the shares at a certain level for 3 or 4 months, he gets more money or something like that. I don't want to say if those are true or not because I don't know enough about how that works. But a lot of the conversation has become, okay, you're willing to let people die so your company can be more successful.
Okay, I've always thought he was the evil. Okay, no, I shouldn't get into these like Reddit theories. I'm like, either way, I know I can prove what he has tweeted, and I know that he has. So he tweeted that there was going to be 0 deaths by the end of April.
I can try and find it how about we go into one of the sort of studies about electric cars while you do that? I'm going to find that tweet just to fact check myself.
I also want to talk a little bit. I love how I really do have an interesting article, but I'm like, I just want to talk a little bit more about Elon Musk. So they just had their baby today. Breaking news. Grimes. This is the person I would love to spend a whole podcast talking about. Is brilliant musician. I do love deeply. I only like 3 days ago watched 3 hours of her being interviewed, and I just like, she's so endearing. And then I don't know if he's joking, and I think it's really funny because like we can't tell if he's joking, but he said they named the baby XAEA12 Musk.
No.
Yeah, that's what he tweeted.
What? What is that like? Do you say that a certain way?
Okay, you know how she has that song that has an A and an E like connected? It's very Aeon Flux. I've never seen
like
that movie.
After Effects is the only thing I can think about when I say an A.
Yeah, it's like X, A, and E, but the like
right.
E's
Isn't that like?
Isn't that like
stupid,
Swedish?
like Latin or something?
Yeah, and then and then A12.
God, we're so dumb.
But the thing that made me so mad, just because I'm like, I love Grimes, and I think
that part didn't make you
no, is that the kid's gonna have the last name Musk. I'm like, no, that kid's last name should be Boucher. It should be her last name, because if there's anything
how
we're looking
far
at history right
she
now,
has fallen.
no, I mean, okay, that's also we shouldn't shame her because the patriarchy makes everyone take their dad's last name.
No, that's true. I guess in the context of all the other things I used to think of her, like she used to literally have in her bio anti-capitalist,
anti-imperialist. Thank you.
Whoops. Okay, fact check. Well, I did just fact check my Elon Musk tweet, and he did say that. I'll
What
tell you
did he
exactly
say?
what he said. Based on this is on March 19th, so well into things starting to shut down, right?
Yeah.
Based on the current trends, probably close to 0 new cases in US too by the end of April.
Oh no, that did not age well.
No. And I will also say, just to add to the controversy of what he's been saying recently, he's been saying like free America, like copying Trump.
What?
Yeah. And then very prominent conservative and alt-right members are posting responses or things on Twitter that he's responding to, being like, yes, exactly. Like doctors are being forced to lie about how many people have coronavirus and saying everyone has it, when in fact there's many who are saying the exact opposite, that they are underdiagnosing because they don't have the test to
And
do
this
it.
is all while Grimes is having his baby. I'm actually so sad.
Tell us your story. I'm sorry. I just had to get that out.
No, I'm actually really sad now. I love Grimes so. Okay, well, he has 5 other kids.
What?
Yeah, because I thought it was like, yeah, he has 5 other sons. This is his 6th son.
Oh, they had another
also
boy?
made me sad that they had a boy.
Don't you think? Okay. Tell me more.
Okay, he dropped out of his physics and materials degree after 2 days to pursue business. Want red flag. Okay,
Didn't he go to West? Or
Queens?
Queens?
No, Queens.
Okay, that's a
Also a red
dark
flag.
mark on.
Sorry.
Yeah, that is a red flag.
And then it also says he has a Bachelor of Science degree in economics and a Bachelor of Arts degree in physics. And I was kind of like, okay, hon. Like, I'm sure. I don't want to like say anything about that, but babe, I'm not sure if you probably know as much as you think. And you don't want people to know. Okay, so what I want to talk about now is a study that came out this.
Oh, someone at our door.
Do we get it? Imagine this is the beginning of a horror movie.
It's like, I hate when people knock on our door during quarantine. It's like, we
like,
can't talk
we're
to
not
you.
coming.
Okay, Greg, you tell your story. I'll just go quickly check because Ernie's barking. Oh,
Like, no, literally, if anyone is at our door, we are not answering it.
okay. I wouldn't answer it. I would just see if there's something.
We have to
done.
allow the people to podcast to know that they are a number one priority.
True. Okay, I'm here.
So one thing that I struggle with, because obviously I do, as you said earlier, when it comes to Elon Musk, I think that the climate crisis is the biggest issue of our time. And I think that's one thing that he also would say confidently. So he's obviously built a career and life around that opinion, which I think is a really important one that we should all have. So I obviously I'm not going to knock him for that. Right. And one thing that he's really done is create, you're right, cool, quote unquote, electrical cars. The tank one is homophobic. Whatever that machine is called is not. There was no gay people involved in designing that freaking tank. I hate that. Anyways, this is a study that is talking about how to get people to drive less cars. And I think that's one thing that he probably isn't aware of his impact, is that he's still creating this cool culture around the individualistic idea of owning a car, which is, I think, actually really problematic as we move forward. I think one thing I've always thought was interesting he was doing was like the Hyperloop, like creating actual like public transit that moves mass amounts of people like through using electricity or renewable energy is interesting to me. And I think public transit is a much more important thing to talk about than trying to figure out a new way for people to own individual cars. And so this study came out as a really interesting way to try and stall the concept of everyone trying to buy cars, because actually recently overall vehicle ownership in Europe grew by 25% between the year 2000 and 2017. People are buying more cars, and they think it actually has to do with the fact that people are more affluent in many ways, and because like the price is coming down sometimes for cars.
Okay.
And so this is talking about this concept that people don't understand, is that people underestimate how much a car actually costs. So you can go in and you can understand, okay, I'm going to pay this much for a car. And then you can also properly guess. This is a study of 7,000 people, asking them how much they think their car costs.
Like over the lifetime of having it, you mean?
Yes.
Not just the price of the car.
No, over the lifetime of
You're
having
talking about your insurance, your
exactly. Your insurance is a big part.
Fixing
Repair
the engines.
Yes.
Okay.
So they actually...
I know so much about cars.
Yeah. Well,
that's all I could think about.
So consumers underestimate the total cost of vehicle ownership by $240 per month on average.
Oh, whoa.
Because it's almost a 50%. 50% of the price that you think you're going to pay for a car, you don't realize you end up having to pay.
So is this saying if I were to buy a car today and predict how much it would cost me over the course of its life that I would have it, it would cost me
double.
Around $240 more every month than I would anticipate it would?
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
Exactly. And so it's a really fascinating way of trying to figure out. The main reason is because of repair, tax, and insurance, and the depreciation of the actual value of the car.
Right, because by the time you can sell it, even later in its life.
Yes, and people are actually able to accurately guess how much they are going to spend on fuel.
Right.
Which is interesting because that actually like negates if you have an electrical car.
Well, that's surprising too. I wouldn't be able to guess that.
I think because it's such a tangible thing that they have to do. Like they have to like figure it out. And
okay.
So what they're saying is they explored the question of if they could somehow get this information out to the general public. And they used like an algorithm to find that it would actually decrease the amount of car purchases by 37%, even if they were able to like be really conservative with the estimate. Like instead of saying it's double, which is what they found, let's just say it's like 40% more, just so that people don't come for us and see how much that like people would then realize, wait, okay, this is too expensive. This is out of my budget. I can't actually afford this car.
Right.
And they're more apt to pay for public transit and figure out another way to get places.
Yeah.
Of course, this is going to be a lot easier for people in urban areas is one thing that they talked about. But then they're saying like, if you think as we move forward, there's a lot of cities like London, for example, which is actually increasing the amount it costs for parking. That's happening in New York too. Really figuring out bike lanes, like trying to lean into these like things. Why are you looking at me?
I'm sorry. I was smiling because I only just realized you're wearing like athleisure right now.
Oh my God.
I was paying attention, but then you started talking about bike lanes and stuff. And then I was like, you look so sporty.
That's so okay. It's quarantine. Like I don't know. I'm gonna go for a run. Like I don't.
Because on the camera, I noticed your little naked leg there.
Oh my God.
I was
Okay.
like, what's he wearing?
So for those who don't know, subscribe to YouTube and you'll see my thigh. Actually,
whoa, you look jacked
they
there.
look. Is that an
That's
optical
an
illusion? You jerk. It's not an optical illusion. I run.
Wow,
run.
over this angle, it's literally a skeleton and bones.
Oh my God. Okay. Anyways. I'm just going to get back to my point, which is that I think it's a really interesting study about, can we, against lobbying, because they said they will be lobbied for sure by these vehicle industries to not get this information out there, but whether it's in campaigns that go on TV, whether they legally make it that they actually have to accurately represent how much this car will cost over time as you buy them, are things. This study was done in Germany. Germany loves regulation. They're going to maybe use this study to then go forward and say, you know what? We need people to stop buying, especially combustion engine cars. That has to happen. We know that has to happen. Elon Musk is obviously trying to figure out how to make that happen. The way he's doing it is by creating a new, cool, sleek, individualistic car that runs on electricity. Again, the electricity currently comes from the grid that is mostly predominantly done by burning fossil fuels. Different story. But then this is saying, no, let's get people to actually step away from the concept of buying a car, leaning more into public transit, increasing the efficiency and ability of public transit across even rural areas in Germany, and maybe make literal television ads that explain to people almost like don't smoke, like this is how much a car costs.
Well,
actually.
yeah, I mean, I don't know the effectiveness of what I'm about to say, but even at least here in Canada, I think in the States as well, they now put calorie counts at like food places when you buy them. So if you go to a McDonald's or a Popeyes, they have to list it. And sometimes it's just understanding and knowing.
Yeah.
Having the information, like if you were to buy a car, here's the estimate of what that will cost you, is, protecting consumers to make sure they can understand. Because sometimes thinking for the next 30 years, you're not really going to have a concept of what you will make necessarily or what you'll spend or what your expectations are. So that is like a useful piece of information.
And underestimating by 50% is a lot.
Yeah. To think one thing and then see another would help you to make a wiser decision.
Anyways, I just thought that was really interesting. As we move forward and figure out other ways to try and, deal with this climate crisis, it's a communication crisis as much as it is like a climate crisis. And so we have to figure out the ways that we get people to listen. Should we do a comment corner and then come into yours?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Comment corner.
Okay, so today's comment corner I got from our iTunes podcast reviews. If you want to leave us one, we'll love you for it.
Yes, do it. We'll love you.
This is from Josh55T. Interesting.
Ooh, spill the tea, Josh.
So, it says, you two have become role models to me. I am 14 and gay myself. Adorable. I want to say thank you for showing that queer people can do anything. You guys have inspired me to pursue a career in science. I want to become a pharmacist or a clinical researcher. Genius. Thank you for teaching me that queer people can do anything and that I can accomplish my dreams. You guys are so amazing. Side note, has become one of the best parts of my week. That is so cute.
I could cry.
Yeah, and it's so nice. Like I didn't come out
a nice
till
comment.
almost 19 years old. It's so nice to know that there are young, out, proud queer people.
And it is so important that also knowing that you love science. Like one thing that was always hard for me was I was like, I love science, but I sound like this, and everyone always tells me I should like do art. Like I know that's weird. I mean, there's another issue I have, which is that this division between science and art, which I think is extremely problematic and holding the world back, because science needs creativity needs science.
Sure.
But yeah, being that young and like just openly, maybe at least to yourself, being openly gay and loving science is just like awesome. Because as much as that's the way that I felt, I don't think I knew how to like express it. Mm-hmm. And thank goodness I did, sort of in my own way. But looking back, I'm like, how did you manage to like juggle all that?
Yeah, I don't really have a distinct memory of my relationship to science. I obviously remember thinking when I was younger, okay, like not understanding where my queerness fit into it, but I was in denial of my queerness. That sometimes it's just such a weird jumbled up relationship in my mind of being young and queer and liking science because I was repressed. And so I wasn't. Like hopefully Josh feels like much more open about it because I'm not sure if he's or them. I don't know for sure if this is a boy or not. Did he say? They. Either way. I don't know. It would be so nice to know if you're comfortable with who you are, that you can feel then a different way your relationship to science.
So do you not, like, I actually distinctly remember when I fell in love with science.
I do as well. But I guess I mean my relationship to science, especially in high school, was actually pretty positive because in so many ways it actually was a refuge for me being gay, because it was like being closer to the nerd spectrum in my school, at least, was further away from the jocks and the people who would make fun of me.
Oh, what?
So I think like my classes for physics would be only like 10 people because it was, once you're getting in past like the first beginnings of biology and stuff, once you got into late high school, you were choosing. So no one there was going to be mean to me. Like they were all nice.
Oh my God. Because you were almost finding refuge in the fact that a lot of the people who loved science were nicer.
Yeah, or I didn't have fears.
God. You weren't in the business class.
And they weren't the cool kids.
Oh my God.
Right? Like we were all just kind of like nerdy kids who liked science. And as a result, my gayness or queerness was not really a big part of it, because if anything, it was protecting that part of me.
That is so interesting, because I feel like like as much. I didn't actively understand that, but that was true for me too. Like my science classes were a refuge. You're right. People were actually less intimidating because they were more likely to be ostracized in their own way, whether they were gay or straight or girls. Or
I would
guys
say in
or
earlier
anything.
science classes, it wouldn't have been that way
'Cause
because
that's
everyone's
mandatory.
forced,
Yeah.
right? But when I was in grade 11 and 12 is when I was like, oh, these classes, I can, not that it's like I was coming out and being so gay or anything, but I definitely probably felt a little bit more myself and less insecure because I was thinking these people aren't judging me in that way.
I remember for me falling in love with science, it was like I would go to my art class and be like, oh, okay, I do love visual art and I get to draw. Like, funny that this isn't even a course. You know what I mean? Or I do my gym class, I'd be like, oh, I love expelling energy. I get to run around in circles. Funny, this is even a course. And then I go to science class and then they'd be like, okay, so this is literally how the world works. You know what I mean? Like, I remember having these moments being like, it almost seems unfair that like these other classes are actually put at the same level as this class where they're like, okay, no, but like this is
to figure
actually
everything out.
photosynthesis. Like this is physics. Like, or I remember the first time I was explained the expanding universe, I slammed the textbook. Like it was like the teacher going through, okay, so this is Earth. This is a solar system. And like zooming out, like, you know, like this is a galaxy. And like it just kept zooming out and out. And I actually was like, like, oh my God, like, oh my God, like this is actually the meaning of life. This is context. Like this is
changing your perspective.
It literally, like I slammed the book, like held it tight and like stared at a wall and just like had a full like body, like, I don't know, epiphany. I don't know what it is, but I'm like, no other course
remember that
did.
moment.
Yeah.
Wow.
Whereas like, I mean, I have really learned, I love art and I made sure I kept that part of me. But I have learned how complex and interesting art is in its own way. But at the time, it was harder for me to like place the same value. And I was like, of course, I'm going to take every single physics, chemistry, biology, like have as much of this information as I can for free. Or in school, like I'm going to like mine this and then it turned into my life. But I definitely like when I took grade 12 physics, like I think my personality really was at odds with the teacher of what he thought a physicist should and could be. And genuinely, like, really, like, talked me out of that class, which to this day I think was rooted in like homophobia and my sort of chatty, like, I was out in that. I came out in that year, so I was like really like I was the confident.
Right,
I was like I was trying to make like beaded necklaces happen. Like I definitely dressed like I think he actually just was like, this guy's gonna like disrupt my ability to teach people physics.
Oh my God, that's messed up.
I know. I've reflected on that a lot, and I don't think he knew what he was doing, but I didn't feel welcome there, and I just think that is like, I'm so proud of this person for just being like, no, I'm going to be a freaking clinical researcher.
It's amazing. Well, Josh, thank you so much for sending us your little review and message.
Yeah, and like obviously that struck a chord with us.
Mm-hmm, true, yeah.
Okay, so a magic spell just happened.
To Elon Musk.
A magic spell just happened, and this time I turned into a squirrel.
What?
That's the thing I do, because that sounds like a magic spell, and I just picture, like, because it's an audio only podcast for some people, if you hear that noise, imagine I just became a frog. Ribbit ribbit.
Wow, that's riveting. Riveting, if I say so myself.
Your face, oh my God. What?
Well, I sometimes I don't understand you, but I think that's the nicest part about you.
And sometimes I don't understand you too, because you used to think that Elon Musk was going to save the world.
Well, I want to. So let's clarify some things, because before I go into my sort of science stuff about electric vehicles, I looked in a little bit to Elon Musk and Tesla just because I wanted to make sure I knew some groundwork facts, and these are some things I found out. So Tesla was actually created by two different people. Elon Musk was not part of this. It was Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning. Okay,
they're fake. I'm kidding.
Those sound like fake names.
Mark and Nepper,
there was a third person who was added, and then Elon Musk came on as a venture capitalist.
Oh, Lord.
So he basically like in my mind, I was like, oh, Elon Musk created and founded Tesla. And then they actually, so Elon Musk and those first 5 people, even though the other 3 joined later, they signed a deal that allowed Elon Musk and those other 2 to call themselves founders. So even though he wasn't technically a founder, he wanted, and I'm not just blaming this on him because maybe those other people wanted that as well, because he gave money, he wanted to be able to be like, I'm a co-founder.
Grimes knows all this, right?
I don't
I'm like, I hope that like Grimes isn't finding us out as she's raising his baby.
Things I also didn't know. In January of this year, Tesla became the most valuable American automaker to ever exist.
Yeah, I
Maybe
knew
we
that,
mentioned
but
it.
we didn't talk about it in that context. But I knew it was the
Which is-
second most profitable.
No, but it's not profitable.
Sorry, it was valued as the second
in the
most.
world, it's the second most valuable automaker.
Yeah, next to who?
Next to Toyota. So it just passed
wow.
Volkswagen in like the end of January of this year. So that's why I was confused, because I'm like, how are they never profitable? I guess there's stuff about like how much research and development they have to do, and how, because they don't have retailers, like you can't go to like a car, what do you say, shop? Where do you get a car?
I'm so surprised. Yeah, exactly, because they're like hard to get.
So so they have to spend so much, I guess, on like promotion and getting people like their hope is obviously long term. Once they get market saturation, then the money starts to start rolling in. But I think
seems okay. Not every Silicon Valley story, but that story happens to me. I hear it all the time, and I'm just like, all these dudes walking around being like, okay, well, just you wait.
Well, it is
just you
crazy.
wait until we go make it. It's like, ew.
It's wild. It's like so they made $86.5 billion in America. And I'm like, if you can't be profitable at that amount, that's crazy. But I guess the whole point is they are having to do so much legwork to make the technology and to get the resources to do it and to put into marketing and to all those kind of things. So I don't understand business, but there is a point where I'm like, you're making almost $100 billion.
And they have to get the best crib for XA on Flux 12, number 17.
Yeah, exactly.
Musk.
I know. Do you think his crib is just going to be one of the cars?
It's going to have no railings, and it's just going to be like, it's going to look like a doctor's chair. And he's going to elevate above it. Or she, or they, because they
I
are
also
gonna,
just like,
yeah.
I'm not going to bail on the podcast. I just have to text someone because I have an appointment.
Oh my God.
A digital appointment that I'm going to be late to. So I just like want to send a message while you help me.
That's
vamp
very
here.
Elon Musk of you to be like, I have a digital appointment that I need to do. No, I do think that Tesla being the second like market capitalization as the second most profitable, or not profitable, sorry, valuable car company to me was so surprising.
Yeah. It's like
don't
every other
see
car
them.
company has also existed for like 70
And
years.
I always am like, oh, there's a Ford, there's a Toyota. Like they're everywhere, but I'm never like, I haven't seen a Tesla.
I know. Maybe I honestly don't know.
They're all over like LA, but like being in Toronto, it's like, where are they?
I don't know. So those were my only couple facts about Tesla, but I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about whether or not Tesla is actually sustainable.
Okay, cool. Because this is a video we've been trying to think about making.
Yeah, and so it's for my facts here, I've leaned heavily into, there's an awesome channel on YouTube called Our Changing Climate. It's like one of my favorite channels.
It's so
you
good.
can check them out. They cover all sorts of topics.
Actually, definitely check them out.
Yeah, I love it. It's mostly like voiceover with just like stock images.
Is that
and stuff. It's really well
YouTube
done.
like a essay vibe of like a
video
guy
essay.
being like, hello?
So just some facts I'm going to spit out to kind of analyze whether or not Teslas are actually sustainable. So the impact of a Tesla is 68% more emissions. Wait, what am I talking about here? Sorry, this is like about the extraction process we're talking about. So your Tesla gets on a road, but there's a lot that happens before that. So getting the materials, getting the resources, it's actually worse for the environment in that process.
By 68%?
Yeah. So because it's so energy intensive, they're trying to find rare metals. I think what they do is they dig giant holes. Like there's a mine in China where they're digging for these rare metals, and they dump toxic chemicals on it to be able to find it.
For the battery?
Yeah. So when they do that, for example, only 0.2% of what comes out of the ground is used, but they basically are destroying parts of the land, right? So it's a hugely problematic process.
Wait, this is for the battery. This isn't for the car.
This is for materials that are used mostly in the battery, but get used in the car as well.
What?
Let me see if I wrote here where they're used.
I wonder if there's any emeralds used in that. Hello, call your dad from the emerald mine. Did you know his dad also started... Can I tell you one thing? His dad had a baby with his stepdaughter, who he knew the stepdaughter since she was 4. Isn't that disgusting?
Wait, isn't he also like disenfranchised from his family?
Yeah, I was gonna say he does not like his
associate
dad.
with him?
He doesn't
Okay.
associate his dad, but it's like but like there's
It's in the
still
genes,
genetics.
girl.
Yeah, there's still genetics. Nature versus nurture.
Sorry, I was just sorry, I'm feeling kind of scattered because I had to text. But basically, yeah, those materials, those rare metals are used in the battery, headlights, and onboard electronics. So mostly
they have that
battery.
crazy cool screen.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it's basically that extraction process is extremely dirty and is not green, basically in any way. It's producing 68% more emissions than than a typical car would. But,
Okay.
so these mines also use gas and coal powered equipment for extraction. So on top of destroying the environment and releasing emissions, they're not using like electric materials or like solar powered materials to get these materials either. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you have like huge factory pits and stuff, not factory pits, but open pits that they're using coal and gas and burning the whole time. But ultimately, once the car is on the road, obviously it's way more green, even though it depends where you are, because you might be using energy anyway. If you're plugging into a circuit that's not using renewable energy and is using gas or coal.
Seeing a lot of them all over Los Angeles and California and learning about California's grid system, it's quite green. It's kind of amazing.
California is one of the best places to be having a Tesla and actually feeling like, okay, I'm not using as many emissions.
And
right now.
Ontario is extremely green too.
Yeah.
Very lot of wind, like energy. So it is interesting, like to think about the two places we've sort of spent time recently. It would be smart to have a Tesla if you could afford it.
And you could feel sort of pat on the back. Okay, I have a Tesla. It is better. And
like,
ultimately, they found that after 18 months on the road, an electric car actually compensates for all those things that it did when it's
with the battery
creation process, that it becomes more green from that point on, which is 18 months is not very long. And that if you're going to have a car for 10, 15, 20 years, that is going to be a lot better.
But it's still enough time to allow you to be like, okay, it's not this like magical thing.
And you're still impacting the environment, right? That's like our phones and everything. Like they're trying to find these rare metals that are needed in places that they can exploit or destroy or whatever. So
back to what I was saying about the concept of maybe not owning a car. Like how do we culturally shift it so that we use public transport, ride sharing apps? Like what do we
That's
do?
ultimately what even this video's discussion was about. So a gas powered car has 2 times the emissions over its lifetime. Okay. But ultimately it's like, and one other thing is that many electric companies, but Tesla tries to recycle most of its batteries. So about 70% of its batteries get recycled, which means they don't need to go mining for more, and they're not making a new car, and it's being reused. So there's cool. You know what I mean? Like there's elements of it that even once they get it, they can reuse it again later.
But so many people are buying a Tesla and probably also have like a Ferrari and also have you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
and ultimately, if you already have a vehicle, it's actually probably not better to get a new car unless you need it.
Yeah.
Right? So ultimately, should you get an electric vehicle? If you're in the market for a car right now, awesome. And you can afford it. That's great. But if you have a car that's not that old, then you could still, you're not doing a service by creating a bigger demand for these things. There's still an impact on the climate, on the environment from this. So don't just think it's a be all fix all. If anything, we should be, it might minimize individual emissions, but those are actually not often the biggest part of our problem, right? Like we have to fight for legislation that will regulate companies and regulate countries and help to make us all commit to lowering our
oil
emissions.
companies early on tried to create those campaigns of like, what can you do yourself to be more green, to try and get the sort of like energy and momentum off their backs. So it's something we should always remember. It's like, obviously do your best individually, but it's really about action together against corporations and getting politicians to lobby behind you.
So I think we can have a couple extra minutes here to talk about some more thoughts about Elon after we've gone through these studies.
Well, that certainly didn't help.
So I mean, no, I do think, again, going back to my initial stance 2 years ago, even I still think it's a noble cause, like excluding him, for example, for car companies and like brand new car companies like Tesla. I shouldn't say brand new, but car companies that focus exclusively on electric vehicles. I think that's a noble cause, and I do think it's a good thing. And I'm excited that culturally we seem to be shifting towards that being the future.
But we also need to talk about Elon Musk, because that is the name of this podcast. It's Elon Musk, update or whatever. And it's like, I feel a little bit like, okay, this is what I was worried about. Like,
what?
I'm a man with this history, with this like megalomania vibe, just like, again, trying to swoop in and save the world. And in fact, it's like every way that he's acted, I've felt in the past has made me skeptical of them, that I'm like can't believe we're sitting here and he's like saying that, you know, coronavirus cases are going to be 0 by the end of April with his platform. Like, I'm just frustrated because I don't want to be like, oh, I told you so. But it's like frustrating to me when it's like, well, it's like if you are there should not be billionaires, period. And this is one thing, like, I think when it comes to something like the climate crisis, I'm like, I am sorry, but we literally need to tax the hell out of these people. No one deserves that much money. He does not deserve that much money. If Tesla's making that much money, it should not be going into his pocket. We need to take their money from them and put it into infrastructure and building a Green New Deal and a grid system that works for the people. And so when I hear about Elon Musk, and it frustrates me because I think a lot of people get really excited around like money and billionaires, especially men. I'm just like, whatever, it's my podcast. I'm going to be hyperbolic in whatever way I want, but it's just the way I freaking feel. And it hasn't let me down up till this point. This obsession that men have with like status and money is like toxic, I think is ruining the world. And I really feel like it frustrates me because I think that a lot of these billionaires are getting propped up within society because people think that if you're a billionaire, you have to be like an amazing person or have done something amazing, when really you've probably just like figured out a fucked up way to like make things, inequality become more rampant. Hashtag Amazon. It's like if I find out that someone is a billionaire, culturally, I want people to start being like, that's embarrassing. Yeah. Like, that's actually disgusting. Well,
I think I saw an interesting discussion online of somebody like, if you are a like, because some people have this in their mind, like, when I'm a billionaire, I'm going to give back so much. If I got that rich, I would, you know, pay all my employees fairly. But someone pointed out, like, people who are billionaires because at every opportunity they were given, they exploited people to the degree that they could. Like a person who's a company owner who decides, I want to pay my employees not just what's maybe considered minimum fare, but like, what is a good wage? I want my employees to have a good life, to have good time off, to be safe, to be like, have health insurance. These billionaires and massively rich people, they're that way in the first place because they decided from the get-go that's not what they were doing.
And it's because that's what, like, they were like, he has this degree in business. It's like, that's what they're taught. Like, I'm just like, as we move further and further into this climate crisis, I'm like, we need to start talking about the cultural aspect of obsessing over money. And I just think it frustrates me because billionaires are seen as idols to people because they have so much money. And I'm like, that's actually, to me, like, disgusting, embarrassing. And I know I make jokes about red flags.
They're literally dragons sitting on piles of money while people starve to death, people die. And I mean, we're all part of this system, right? Like,
for sure.
We are very well off. We have comfortable lives. And so that people could argue that about us in some ways as well.
And they should.
And they totally should. Exactly. We should be all acknowledging where we're coming from and how we can improve and stopping this sort of idolizing of billions of dollars, because you're right, there is some weird association between people thinking that, and this is the problem with him tweeting about this stuff. People think if you're a billionaire that you're a genius. People think that if you're a billionaire, you have the answers.
You must know something, that
which
we all
is
don't,
why when he tweets about coronavirus in this way, it's so problematic, because if you like, you're just not. It just goes to show you can be really smart in some ways and absolutely idiotic.
But then this
in
is the
others.
thing is, like, I'm like, is he even smart? Because I don't even think many of the things he said have been very nuanced. I think nuanced.
I mean, obviously, somebody who is at that point in some way has something. I don't know whether that's just.
But that is what I will say is not obvious to me. That is not obvious.
Yeah,
to me.
you're right. I
Why
don't
should
know.
it be obvious to me?
It doesn't make him smart at all necessarily. No. I would say I do not know enough about him to say whether or not in what way he is or isn't smart. Obviously, he's persistent. Obviously, he's made a name of himself and he's found a way to monopolize on certain things. Whether that makes him smart or not, I don't know. It's that same conversation that when people go like, oh, Kim Kardashian is actually a genius. It's like, it kind of depends how you look at it. You might be like, yeah, she actually plays this role and is a marketing expert and all these things, and that makes her so smart. But somebody else may say, no, she only cares about money. That doesn't make her smart.
I'm going to be hyperbolic again, and that's an interesting comparison, I think, because I obviously think that misogyny is rampant in our culture, but let's just focus on the Western culture. I bet so many men would say that Kim Kardashian is dumb, and then would in the same breath say that Elon Musk is smart. Do you know what I mean? Like that's an interesting comparison to be like, okay, like why are you choosing to idolize someone and why are you not? And I bet a lot of people see themselves in Elon Musk. Like I'm making an assumption about like Reddit and the types of places that like you've said have turned on him recently.
I don't want to act like I know what's happening. I see the conversations happening even in places like Reddit that have like a lot of fanboys for him. I'm
just thinking like that is like that's actually an interesting place to talk with someone who might love Elon Musk and not like Kim Kardashian, who happens to be a man. It's like, okay, well that's interesting. Like why would they be considered any different?
Yeah, but I think you have to ask yourself that question as well. Would you call Kim Kardashian a genius?
No, I have no interest in I would not call Kim Kardashian a genius. Yeah.
But I know people have had those genuine conversations of being like, oh, but she is actually so smart. She's found a way to capitalize on the system.
Oh my God, I see what you're saying. No, I definitely know that. They're actually very similar to me. I think that's an interesting comparison.
Like Elon Musk is Kim Kardashian.
And if we want to end it here, there was a famous photo recently that I was kind of looking at once when we were like, it went online and I was like partying and I kind of had a moment where I was like, oh my God, the world is a sci-fi movie and it's crazy. And it was a photo of Kim Kardashian, Travis Scott, Kanye West, Grimes, and Elon Musk. It was just like this like smorgasbord of like cool LA like fuckboy vibes mixed with like, you know, the sci-fi fleet and then Grimes. This person who I've loved, this little like Montreal like experimental musician who I like love.
It is crazy.
Just smack in the middle there.
Wild. If you don't know much about Grimes, it is just so weird to think that she is with Elon Musk.
It's so weird.
And obviously we do not know the ins and outs of their relationship, and I don't want to overly judge her, but I'm just like, what? We can't just be, there can't be like some crazy difference that only she's, I don't know. I'm just like,
no, they're, oh God. Okay.
It makes me sad because I think her music's really interesting and cool, and then I think that she's like wanting to say interesting things, but then how can you be with somebody like that who is not interested in the world from an artistic, I don't know, or just like obviously seeing that he's willing to sacrifice other people's lives so he can remain a mega billionaire, like that must sit weird with her.
It has to, or else.
Or she's not as cool as I thought. That's like the options, and I don't. You know
I literally want to barf when you say that. Man. Like, crime's not as cool as I thought. I get so nervous. Okay, well, probably in 2 years from now, we're gonna have update number 3. And, I hope
my prediction is that at some point he will be removed as CEO of the company. Is that how he is? I think Tesla will want to get rid of him because he's too volatile and too unpredictable, and has a negative impact on the company's image.
Yeah,
because there are lots of people who work at Tesla who are probably like, shut up. You know what I mean? And other co-founders and other people working being like, we're trying to do something cool, and you're actually going to like destroy that.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. What, any last final words?
No, I honestly, this is just like, if anyone needs to know, it's consistent turmoil. You're probably rolling your eyes, but I just love Grimes so much. I just can't believe it. I just can't believe she just gave birth to his sixth son.
That is really weird. I just truly thought this was going to be his first child. How old is he? I did not do my
He's
research.
Like 54 or something. He's a lot older than her too.
That is so weird.
Not that matters, but it's just.
I also just want to like see what she would do with like $100 million on a music video. You know what I mean? Like that's what I wished when they were together. I hope I'm just like, why are we not seeing?
She just wants to perform in space, babe.
Actually, it might be like that might be true. No. Oh, I read something today. Last tangent.
Yeah, I know. I'm always like, you have to be somewhere. I'm trying to wrap
I've been
it
texting them. Elon Musk is gonna make a movie with Tom Cruise in space.
Okay. He's not. They're both going to run out of oxygen and die. That's not true.
A headline today that like Tom Cruise and Elon Musk are talking about like the first ever movie that gets actually filmed in space or something.
And this is something I've always say. It's like, Elon Musk, even his name, when you look at him, I'm like, you are the super villain in a movie. Tom Cruise, Scientology, bring them together. We're doomed. Okay, people, we are not looking up to these Elon anymore.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, more and more people are seeing that he is probably the villain in his own narrative. Like, I don't think he quite realizes it, but people are starting to see that. And I think it's an important message, like you said, being a billionaire, no matter if you're uber conservative, uber liberal, or centrist, like that's not a cool thing and it's not a good thing. And you can be on any side of the spectrum. And at the end of the day, if you're a billionaire, you probably actually just don't give a shit about people. Right at the end of the day.
Okay, well, we can start putting the music on. I'm going to leave you with something really confusing, which is Oprah. We love Oprah. We love
what?
Oprah.
Okay, I'm not co-signing that.
Oprah.
Greg loves Oprah. Is she a billionaire though?
I love Oprah.
Does she have a billion? I don't know if she's a billionaire.
I love Oprah.
Okay. Thank you guys so much for listening. We've ranted, we raved. Let us know what you think about Elon Musk. Is he evil or a genius or the worst? He's the worst. Okay. Hashtag
He
Side
came
Note
around.
Podcast. See you guys later.